Well, hello and welcome to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar. First off, I want to say that it is so great to be back on the air with you all after almost a year off due to experiencing breast cancer and having treatment. I took a little break and I am back and I am so excited to help you live your best life. This show is all about helping you to condition and strengthen your mindset and cultivate a life you love because you were meant to live an extraordinary life. So today I want to say hello and welcome to my special guest, Gaby Mammone, who is an incredible human with a big purpose and mission on this planet. She's an advocacy leader in the charitable and not for profit sectors, and also an award winning business executive and speaker. You may have heard her TED talk. So it's so great that this show allows people the ability to share their story because I believe that we learn so much through other people's journeys. And if they can do it, you can do it. So let's say hello and welcome to Gaby Mammone. Thank you, Gaby. It's so great to have you here on the show.
Thank you, Tanya. And you know what? Welcome back to you after your little hiatus. We're so happy to have you back. The show needs you, the air needs you, we need you. So thank you very much for your lovely intro.
Oh, it is my pleasure. And I know, Gaby, that you've struggled with your own health challenges and, coming through the other side with such beautiful poise and grace and resilience. And one of your purposes and your missions, on this planet is really to help bring more kindness and resilience. So I want to talk about what inspired, your journey and your love for helping other people.
Thank you very much. I'd love to start off by saying for anyone that's listening that you may hear a lot of successes in this podcast and resiliency and overcoming adversity, but we recognize that everyone is going through something. And so if you think about what you're going through, this episode, this discussion, our purpose is to hopefully inspire you to let you know that you really can prevail, and we're going to hopefully show you how. So,
Well said. I love that. Yeah. And also, just to add on to that, the fact that you're never alone, despite the fact of feeling alone and you're walking this, challenge by yourself. We're here for you. We are here for you. Right.
yes, it's so true. And, gosh, I'll highlight some aspects of my life to show you kind of where I've come from and where I'm at. And so, from a kindness perspective, I truly, really, in my core, in my soul, believe that kindness does have a ripple healing effect. It really does. You help someone, and it's not linear. It's not like you help someone and they got to help you in return. No, you put it out there without any expectation of anything in return, and it will come back to you in some form, some way, somehow, someday. And that's been my healing property when I haven't been well. There are many times where, for example, I get a really bad pain behind my right eye, really bad. In fact, right before this podcast, Tanya, you had texted me about something relating to the podcast, and I had an awful pain. And for me to release that energy and not put my focus there, I thought, who can I impact right now to make me feel better? And I sent a text to an old friend that I haven't spoken to in a long time to see how they were doing. And that is kindness at its best because I know it's going to come back to me, and that's how I heal. Non-medicinal properties, that's how I heal. So.
Yeah, I love that. I think that, we do help ourselves through helping other people. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. So thank you for sharing that. And I'd love to talk about, your personal health challenges. You had mentioned that you suffer from a headache. So, I mean, everybody's probably had a headache at some point in their life. But for you, with your health challenges, I'd love for you to share that story if you're open to sharing that.
Yes, for sure. So I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, MS, 18 years ago. And I remember sitting in my neurologist's office, and when she told me that I had MS, I admit I didn't even know what it was. Because if you don't have a family member or close friend going through something, I never had a need to look it up. Like I just didn't know. And so my beginning of my journey was learning what this autoimmune disease actually was. So for those that are listening, that you're not aware, it's an invisible disability, like many things out there that are invisible, like lupus or arthritis. And I mean, we can list many, many things that are invisible. And so with MS, it's not a cookie cutter disease. And what I mean by that is it's different for every person that has it, because our nerves have a sheath, like a plastic coating, kind of like this cable for anyone that's watching. Around the cable is this plastic sheath. So imagine that sheath is our nerve. It's called myelin. And so myelin covers our nerve. And so what happens is our central nervous system attacks myelin. So depending where it attacks it and you expose the nerve, then you have different symptoms. So, and it can be anything. That's why some people are in wheelchairs and scooters. That's why some are walking. Some have lost vision, numbness, tingling, spasticity. The list goes on of symptoms and issues that people with MS can face. But again, it's different for everybody. And so I remember, being in my 20s and going through many symptoms, like I had lost my peripheral vision, incontinence. I was constantly tingling fingers and toes. And so, that's when my journey began. So after my diagnosis, and I understood what MS was, that's kind of when my journey started of, I know it's not going to shorten my life, but it can alter my life. But how do I make the best life with the cards that I've dealt? And so the mindset piece was key. I had to move from denial and why me to how am I going to make the best of my situation. And once I made that mindset shift, that's when it started to get actually easier for me. Despite my progression, it started to get easier.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I absolutely honor where you're at, and taking and making that decision to really foster a strong mindset moving forward with that diagnosis, because I can imagine that that's quite scary to hear that, and the uncertainty of what's this going to look like down the road. I think one thing that I've certainly learned through my years is that life doesn't have to be perfect in order for you to find joy and bliss and happiness, because it's always available to us right there in that moment. And we can get so bogged down through the weight of our challenges, and that extends far beyond physical illness as well, emotional challenges that can be so draining. And it really is important to recognize that we do have the ability to take control and to make it be what we want it to be. So for you, Gaby, what was some of the thoughts that were, going through your mind, and how did you say, all right, I'm going to, really strengthen my mindset in this situation?
Mm-hmm. I remember being newly diagnosed within the first maybe even 3 years. And I remember feeling like I needed to talk to somebody and meet people like me, because no one in my family ever had MS. It's not like it was genetic. I didn't know anybody, so it was very new for us. And I didn't have any friends that had MS. Like, it was just a very new thing in our circle. And so I remember going to like a self-help group, and it was hard because there were many people that were crying and upset and confused, and I went there for the purpose of feeling motivated, but I left there feeling worse. And I remember at that moment thinking, I got to help people. But then I thought, well, I got to help myself first. So how can I get to a stage where I can motivate these people, these groups, these committees, these events where people are sharing like experiences should be motivational, and how it would help each other, and people like me, how can we lift each other up? And so that actually kind of became my mission after that meeting of how can I impact them? And so that's kind of when it all turned around. I started to volunteer actively with the MS Society of Canada on many, many levels. And then I even became an ambassador with the MS Society of Canada. So I meet with politicians and try to change some policies around episodic and autoimmune disabilities, and I fundraise and I stand on stages and I motivate and I inspire and I chat with newly diagnosed people. And as I'm going through this journey, after every event, when someone comes to me in tears saying, Gabby, you've made a difference in my life, that's when I was like, okay, I figured out my purpose. I figured it out. And so my healing came from being able to help others like me, so I could really relate to what it's like to have to know that you have a meeting at 9 a.m., but you can't get out of bed because your legs are spastic, or know what it's like to have your kids want to play with you, but you just don't feel like it. You'd rather sleep. That's hard, but I get it. And so I was able to chat with people and inspire them and motivate them. And, that opened up many other doors, because my background is supporting people with careers and helping them find the right opportunity and the right job. And so sometimes people with an illness, whether it's MS or anything else, if someone feels like they're at a disadvantage, that can come through in an interview. And so, I have a coaching background, and so I also began coaching people in how to conduct themselves in interviews and how to show your weakness and how to actually speak and communicate why you are the right person for this role and why you can impact.
Yeah, I love that because it really, a job interview can parallel life and how, because how we do one thing is how we do everything. And it's really interesting if we can, you know, really analyze how we are operating day to day, the thoughts, the beliefs, the patterns that keep us stuck and that keep us limited, so that we can, rise above them. And I think it's kind of key to, the whole coaching aspect and to helping to guide people, in their jobs. It's putting that best foot forward, but allowing a new perspective to come in. One thing that you said earlier when you were, diagnosed with MS was that the why me, and that's very common in life. When anything happens that is not ideal, that we don't love, that we don't welcome in, it's like, why me? Why is this happening? But the problem with that question is that, sometimes, many times you will never get an answer, but we get so fixed and stuck into having the need to know why. And if we can let go of that, let go of that control, then you can move forward in a way that is more empowering. Otherwise, it can be easy to get stuck in that victimhood mentality, unintentionally. And it happens, right? I mean, we're human, we have a range of emotions. So it's not uncommon to have those emotions. But what you don't want is to get stuck there and then to live in that place. So, I acknowledge you, Gabby, for helping other people to get past that that need of why. Why did this happen to me? And so, because you can never move forward if you're hanging on to that question.
Yeah, it's so true. And it goes back to also a child. A child sees the world in a completely different light. They're already where they want to be. So, for example, when we had announced to my kids that we were going to Disney World a few years ago, my daughter was already there. She's like, I'm going to go on this ride. I'm going to see this princess. I'm going to do this. She was already there. Whereas as adults, we get distracted by all the things in between. Well, can I afford it? How much time do I have to take off? And who's going to watch this person? And how's, my family we're going to succeed in? And, what needs to be involved? And so we come up with all kinds of reasons and excuses why we shouldn't do it, whereas the child's just there. And so in life, why can't we do that also? With my situation, I needed to have a mindset where I was already there. I needed to envision a good, healthy life. I needed to envision being a great mom despite my challenges. I need to be able to see myself and accept where I'm at. So instead of the why me attitude, why not me? I can do this. And so I needed to figure out how to create my mindset, my subconscious mind. I needed to program it so that I knew that I could do what I wanted. I could do what I wanted. Yeah, I might have some curveballs for sure, But if I'm strong enough, I can choose how to react to them. And that's the key. Just like today, before our podcast, I was feeling a lot of pain in my right eye. I could have called you and said, today's not your day. But I got to show up. You got to show up in life. You got to face your fears. And that's the key here.
Yeah, I love that because that takes, courage and to be able to move forward despite some of the challenges that appear. And, listen, everyone has challenges. And, if we're on this planet, we have challenges. It's just part of life. But it can be easy for us to, not do the things that we want to do for a myriad of reasons, right? If we talk ourselves into it enough, right? The mind is really great at talking us down. But I love that you said, why not me, right? Versus a question of, why me, that people get stuck in. Because I think it's really important, to condition our mindset is to ask better questions, because your mind is going to work to figure out the answer to the question that you have asked. So let's start asking better questions. And then your mind is going to focus on that, right? The reticular activating system is at work and it is going to look for what you tell it. So let's focus on something that is more positive so that we can really create the reality that is going to serve us. So we're going to take a little break here on the Mindset Mentor. My special guest today is Gaby Mammone, and she is here to, share her story and, her mission and her purpose in life, which, by the way, she's turned into a business, is all about bringing more kindness into this world, more resilience. And listen, the world has experienced a traumatic event, with COVID, and collectively. So we all could use a little bit of help in understanding how to move forward in a way that can empower us to feel good instead of being stuck in the negativity that we are bombarded with. So let's take a break here on Sauga 960, and we will be back after this. And welcome back to the Mindset Mentor on Sauga 960. I hope you are having an absolutely phenomenal day. And I want to continue the conversation with my good friend, Gaby Mammone, who is sharing her story of rising above her challenges. And helping to inspire and motivate people. She has turned her passion and purpose into a business, which is, helping people around the world. And let's talk about that. Gaby, such a pleasure to have you on the show. I kind of want to just pick up where we left off and continue talking about your business, Kind Projects. What is that about? Tell us.
Thank you, Tanya. Kind Projects really started from my history of being an avid volunteer with many, many charities. As long as I can remember, I've always volunteered in some capacity with several charities. And I found that sometimes charities wanted to have an event or needed an MC or needed project work done. Maybe not hire someone full time, but project work done. And that's me. That worked very well with my lifestyle and where I was at with my health. And, I'm a mom of two. And of course, at the time when I started the business, I had my first son. And so it just worked really well with my schedule to have project work. And so hence the name Kind Projects. And that's exactly what I did. So I helped charities raise funds for fundraising events, write their grants. I'm an excellent writer. Help them find volunteers. I did a lot of their MC for their events, and sourcing sponsors and things like that. And it was fantastic because I was aligned with groups that were serving a common purpose to help the greater good, and it aligned with me. And so it just worked really well. So that was a business that I started. And of course, it also morphed into the fact I do a lot of coaching, like speaking coaching and career coaching. And so, I did that on a one-on-one basis, or sometimes group coaching, and that worked really well. And I've been doing that. I love it. I enjoy it. And I also realized that I can do more. And so, yes, I have MS. And Montel Williams quote that I like, and that is, I may have MS, but MS does not have me.
I love it. So good. So good. Yeah.
Montel. And so, I basically realized that to impact the world, I don't need to meet every single person. I need to make sure that who I speak to has enough capacity that they can share what I've just taught them. And then that's how they can spread. But I did realize I needed to align myself with a top mindset coach, top performance coach in order to take it to that next. And I did. I'm blessed and happy to say that I'm working as a COO, Chief Operations Officer, with Hinnacon Worldwide. And Hinna is a global coach who helps people make their annual income their monthly income.
Nice. And a lot of people listening right now are like, yes, please. Mhm.
Right? And it's not it's true. Like I see it with my own eyes. Her clients, this group coaching, and so her clients have taken things to the next level, and they just live life with more ease, joy, and fun. And so, how do we do that? It all comes down to mindset. And so she does a lot of mindset work with everyone. And so, I have the privilege of being part of it. I'm taking the program as well. And so, overall, I'm very happy. Yes, I have challenges, and we can even go into some of the burdens and the challenges that I go through. But I also know how to pick how I respond to those challenges. That's key. That's key in allowing me to proceed very positively.
Yeah, I love that, and I would absolutely love if you can share that with the viewers because I think it's really helpful. Now, you don't have to be going through the exact same thing, listeners, but through listening to how you can flip the mindset with some of your challenges, it really enables you to feel empowered, and again to bring in more of what you want versus having that constant resistance in life. So, Gabby, I'd love for you to be able to share some of those experiences with us.
For sure. Yeah, I remember being a first time mom, and my son was just about 3 years old, and he had a seizure. And I'd never witnessed a seizure before. And so, we rushed into the hospital, and shortly after he was diagnosed with epilepsy. And so that started a health journey for him. And it was also very difficult because my son was also nonverbal. So he could speak in our home, but outside of our home, no one heard his voice, including his grandparents. And he had this extreme social anxiety that prevented him from looking in someone's eyes, from being seen. It was so extreme that he was the kid at recess that would lean up against the bricks, head down, nobody would play with him, never be invited to a birthday party. Like he was that kid. I'm the mom of that kid. And it was heart wrenching. Can you imagine like being a parent and your child has no friends? Like no one wants to play with them? Like that's awful.
Yeah.
Like that's awful.
Yeah, I
And
mean, when
so
your child is in pain, you're in pain,
oh,
right? I mean, just yeah.
he was excluded, and I'm all about inclusion and acceptance and diversity and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, he was excluded, and it was heart wrenching because he didn't speak. And so I remember, and we went down a very long journey of speech pathologists, psychologists, psychiatrists. Like we really several doctors, a very long journey and several years of trying to get him help to have him feel like he didn't have to be blocked in his own body because that's exactly what happened to him. Anyway, so I remember a day where we went to see a particular doctor, and she said to him, "Okay, I'm going to show you 4 pictures, and I want you to point to the 2 that are most alike." And so she showed him a dog, an umbrella, and a clock. And he pointed to the umbrella and the clock. But the 2 that were most alike were the dogs. So she turned the page and she asked 19 more questions similarly to that. 4 pictures pointed to the most alike. Everyone got wrong. So every single one. And so she went back to the first example and she said, "I'm going to leave the room and I want you to tell mommy, why did you in this picture point to the umbrella and the clock as the 2 pictures that are most alike?" So she left and he speaks to me. So he said to me, "Because mommy, when you stand under an umbrella and look up, it's the shape of a clock."
Oh, wow. Very
So
smart in perspective. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
he wasn't wrong. He just saw it differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
a concert to colors. So I was like, wow. And so she came back and I shared that with her, and it was like her jaw dropped. So he was able to explain to me some of the other examples. And when I shared that with her, she said, "In my 30 plus years of being a psychiatrist, no child has ever been able to explain their answers like your son." And she
Wow.
said to me, son sees the world in a different way. You need to connect with him in that way.
Yeah,
And
that's
oh,
so beautiful and so profound. And if we think about just all of our relationships in life, if we have a different language, like we all have those, the five languages of love, and if we are operating in a different language and someone doesn't speak that language, it creates a lot of chaos. But sometimes it's just a matter of asking, well, what did you mean by that? In the case of the psychologist asking your son to get clarity. Well, why did he choose this? Such a beautiful explanation, makes absolute perfect sense. And it's really important. It's a great example of how our differences are unique, and we should embrace those differences and not be afraid of them. We all don't fit into a box. We're all different. There's 7.8 billion people on this planet, and that means there's 7.8 billion different personality types out there, a different equation. And it's so key to try to get an understanding of people. So I love that example. Thank you for sharing that, Gaby.
oh, you're welcome. And that was kind of the journey that allowed me to realize I needed to connect with him. If I wanted him to speak, I needed to see him speaking. I needed to understand his language. And he liked things like wires and cables, cause and effect, and why things work. And so, maybe one mom might carry a lollipop in her purse, but me, I carried an extension cord. And I know it might sound funny to the average person, but that's his language. And so
Mm.
temper tantrum or have anxiety in the grocery store, I would say, look how calm this extension cord is. Let's try to, and then I would speak to him in his language. And that, along with treatment and school's help and a long list of supporters, I'm happy to say by the age of 7, he started to whisper. And then by the age of 8, he started to speak and had friends.
Oh, yay.
And then by the age of 9, he was saying the morning announcements. Yeah.
That is incredible. I love that. Yay, yay, yay. I mean, well done on all accounts for your son, of course, but also for you for being that rock and and helping him to really continue to be himself. Oftentimes when we're faced in situations like that, people want us to be in a particular space. And if that space is confining to us, then it doesn't benefit us to be forced into that small box, so to speak. So it's really lovely to see that you were able to bring his personality out, so that he can live a joyful life and he can interact with other people. And I encourage people and parents, to ask their kids what's going on at school. Having but to be on the outside as an outsider, as especially as a child, it's so difficult. We want to have everybody included. So, it's so important, I think, to have those conversations, as parents, to talk to your kids and see if maybe it's them that's experiencing the problem, or maybe they're actually perpetuating the problem unaware. So if we can educate people, I think that could help us, move forward and empower people.
You're so right. And so even though that particular example had a happy ending in that scenario, throughout all of this, I still have MS. He still had epilepsy. We were still late for school because I couldn't get up and drive him, or maybe he had a seizure in the night. And then, of course, I had a daughter who did not want to sleep alone, so I had to be with her for a bit. And she was having tears, and it was, the stress was high. It was high. And looking back, I I was resilient and I was able to deal with adversity. And I think it's because of my positive mental attitude. I needed to really focus and wake up every morning and write what I'm grateful for.
Beautiful. I love that. Well, we're going to continue that topic. When we come back, we're going to take a short break here on Sauga 960. You're listening to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, and my special guest today is Gaby Mammone. We're going to continue after this. Stay tuned. Hello, hello, and welcome back. I'm Tania Kolar. You are listening to the Mindset Mentor here on Sauga 960 AM. So great to be here with you today. And my special guest joining me is Gaby Mammone. We took a little break. Before we took a break, we were just getting and touching on the subject of gratitude. which is an absolute game changer in our lives. So I want to continue that conversation, Gaby, and welcome and thank you for being vulnerable and opening up and sharing your challenges and your struggles with experiencing MS and also your son experiencing epilepsy and being on the outside of things when it comes to school and friendships and being able to nurture his needs and his and allowing his personality to come through to change that for him and for yourself. And I want to talk about as you went through all of that, obviously very challenging. And you said that gratitude was something that became very instrumental in moving forward. So can you tell us what did that gratitude look like for you?
For sure. And let the record show, I know that everybody talks about gratitude and we always hear gratitude, attitude of gratitude. But
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing, it really does work. And
Yep.
so everyone, no matter what we're going through, can find something that they're grateful for. And if anyone that's listening now is having a hard time with that, I want you to reach out to me. I want you to reach out to me. I'll offer a free coaching session because half an hour with me, I'll show you what you can be grateful for, no matter what your situation is. Because I recognize that there are big issues in life and challenges. And just when you think, I'm at my lowest, or why am I going through this? The reality is there's something to be for. And every morning when I wake up, I have gratitude to know. And it can be the smallest thing. It can be, I'm so grateful that my child laughed at my joke. It can be, I'm so grateful that I own a cross pen. I'm grateful that I was able to go for a 10-minute walk today. It can be anything you're grateful for. It doesn't always even have something tangible that you own, but you'll start to look at all areas of your life and the people that are in your circle and those outside of your circle. And you can be grateful for other things as well, like the country that you live in, the state that your country is in. And so it's key. It's key to write out what you're grateful for, allocate some time every day, and you'll find that it'll fill you up. And you know this, like smiling injects positive neurotransmitters like dopamine, endorphins, and serotonin,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And
The feel
and
good chemicals. Mm-hmm.
and it reduces cortisol level, which is your stress hormone. And your brain doesn't know the difference between a thought and the way you actually feel. So if you feel awful, but you smile, you're actually helping your situation just by smiling. And when you write
Yes.
in gratitude, you smile. Like it's so helpful.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is so helpful because you can't be miserable and grateful at the same time.
Right.
So it's really important to focus on that gratitude. It could be as simple as, oh my goodness, thank you for this breath. I woke up today, because some people will not wake up today. And so that is a gift. And there's so many things to be grateful for throughout your day. And the more grateful you are, the easier you'll spot those. And then the more you'll appreciate your loved ones as well. Because you'll start to look at when you practice gratitude, you're going to start to, because you're looking for good things and positive things. You'll start to see that in people. And even sometimes when you would normally see some of their negative traits or qualities, you find that compassion and gratitude. And it just really, truly is, so rewarding to incorporate gratitude. So I highly recommend that for anybody listening who does not have a practice of gratitude. I also recommend that alongside Gaby. And Gaby, you had mentioned if anybody wants to reach out to you, and I just would love to give the listeners the information on how they can reach out to you.
Oh, for sure. All of my social media handles are my full name. So it's Gaby Mammone. Gaby with one B. That's what some people call me, Gaby with one B. So it's GABYMAMM as in Mary ONE. I'm most active, I think, on Instagram. So send me a DM and I'm happy to respond.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And I think it is important to reach out if you're struggling and you need some help, because again, you're not alone. So just remember that you are never alone. Reach out to your group, your immediate family, close friends, and when you're sharing vulnerable information, make sure that you confide in people that you trust. Right, that's important to have that trust level. And if you find that there is nobody in your circle where you can trust, you feel confident enough to trust that person, then seek professional help, or join a support group of people who are going through something similar, and you can really, help each other through that. I find it so healing, right, to share, to have a voice, to put a voice to your feelings, or and if that is a little bit too much, then start to write it down, because when you can journal, when you can write out some of the things that are going on in your mind and in your head, it takes away the intensity, of that problem. And when you can see it on paper, it's like, oh, okay, I can deal with this, right? It's not as horrendous as you think, because we can get trapped and locked and fixed in our thought process, those negative patterns, right? That negative loop that keeps on coming, right? We want to put an end to that. So we talked about how gratitude is so important. And another thing that I think is so important is self-care. So what were some of the techniques that you use to ensure that, you put yourself first in some of those situations where it can be really easy to stay last on that rung?
I'll answer that question with a story. It's kind of raw though. Are you ready for a raw story, Tanya?
Absolutely. We love it. We love it. This is how we learn. Yes.
Yeah, we can all relate to COVID. We all have a COVID story
Mm-hmm.
somehow, as did I. And so I live in a city where one of the first people that had COVID in the city that I live in was my dad. And so um, he was a hairdresser, and he caught it from one of his customers. And that was in March 2020, right when it had come. And he then gave it to my mom. They both were in the hospital. My mom did survive. My dad stayed in the hospital on oxygen, but they intubated him. And there was a long journey, and it was new. I remember one particular doctor saying, "This is new for us. We're not really sure what to do, but we think he needs to be intubated, and that's why we've done this thing to help him." And so we all had this hope. And so I remember saying to my dad, um, like we obviously weren't allowed to go to the hospital, and they didn't even have a phone in the room because they were overloaded in the intensive care unit, which is where he was. That we met a beautiful, kind nurse that said to us, "Look, I'm not allowed this, but I feel bad that you can't see your dad or talk to your dad. So I'm going to hold my cell phone up to his ear, and you can just talk to him for 1 minute on every shift that I'm here." But
Oh.
she's, yeah, I know, right? And that was my one lifeline that I had. I couldn't see him. I mean, normally when someone you love is sick, you want to hold their hand in the hospital, tell them to fight. I never had that. And my dad was my person. So it was hard for me. So I just, we couldn't use a phone. I remember staring at the phone, waiting for the doctor to call, waiting for us to call with an update on his vitals and things like that. Anyway, long story short, sadly, my dad did pass after 3 weeks in the hospital from COVID. And oh man, I mean, how could I remember thinking, my situation, how do I pull out of this? And for anyone that has an issue, like a health issue, stress can manifest what you're going through. So here I am trying to control my stress and deal with my grief and help my mom, who was completely devastated. And I couldn't even take care of myself because I was grieving. And I couldn't even go see my mom because she still was in that 2 week quarantine period of not being able to see anyone that had COVID. And it was just an awful time. I had to watch my health because if my stress level raised any more, then I could send myself into an MS attack which is not fun. Because it can result in permanent damage and progression of my disease. And so it was awful. It was really an awful downtime. So at the time, and homeschool, schools were closed at that point now. And it was a tough time. I remember that. So going back to self care, right? I know what it's like to be down and grieving and just feeling like, why has the world shattered? I mean, there wasn't even a funeral, like, because back then COVID was so new, and so there was no dignity I felt for my dad's ending, and it was hard. Like, only now I'm able to speak about it. But I remember that it was a hard journey for us, and it still is. So I still did my gratitude journal, and it may have only been one thing, but I'm grateful for my car, grateful for the home I live in, grateful that for the lessons in taught, grateful that I played piano as a child, grateful that I have more than one shade of lipstick to choose from when I want to wear it. Like, there was always something that I could, and I had to reach down, Tanya, reach down and find what I was grateful for, but I had to do that for my sanity. And some people exercise, which I think is imperative and important. For someone like me that had MS, where it hurt to exercise because I was so spastic. My exercises might have been this, like stretching my fingers on my hands so that I could actually write when I wanted to do my gratitude journal. And so, or doing Sudoku so I could exercise my brain, or puzzles so I could stay focused. And so for me, it was taking care of myself and juicing. I did a lot of juicing because sometimes you don't want to eat, but it was easier to drink. So that's what I did. And when I say drink, I mean juices. let's make that clear. So
wow. Well, thank you, Gaby, so much for this beautiful story and heartbreaking story as well. So, I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry that you've experienced that. And anyone listening as well, if you've lost a loved one, it's so awful, and it is heartbreaking. But you can move forward, from that experience. But allow yourself some time to grieve. I think the grieving process, it's exactly that. It is a process, and you have to honor your feelings, and know that there is a light at the end of that tunnel where you will be able to function again, even though you feel like it's impossible at the time. At the beginning of COVID, obviously there was so much uncertainty behind everything, and that first strain was, debilitating for many people, and caused death. And so it's hard to try to rationalize all of that. But it's really important to, I think, stay present in the moment. What can you do in this moment, right? You don't have to start thinking about tomorrow and the next day and the next day and in a year. Stay present to the moment, and that can help get you through it. So, again, Gabby, I want to honor you for being open and vulnerable and putting your heart out there to help other people who are going through a similar challenge, because we all can rise above adversity. And unfortunately, we are out of time here on the Mindset Mentor. So, again, Gabby, a big thank you for being here, and for the work that you're doing to uplift humanity and to foster more kindness and more resilience, because we do deserve to live an absolutely incredible life. So thank you, Gabby.
Thank you. And I'm grateful for you, Tanya, for the show, for the listeners, for anyone watching. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. And listen, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the relaunch of the Mindset Mentor. I am so blessed and happy and grateful to be here with you on the radio, and on the video for those who will be watching this later. And if you want to check out the video with Gabby and I, have a look online on YouTube with Tania Kolar. Join me and see you next Thursday at 3 p.m. here on Sauga 960.